5 gentle ways to practice self-forgiveness after making a difficult life mistake. There are moments in life when a single decision feels heavy enough to echo through years. A moment when something you said, something you did, or something you failed to do begins to live inside your memory like an unfinished conversation. And over time, that memory can become a quiet judge. A voice that whispers, "You should have known better. You ruined everything. You cannot undo this." Many people carry these sentences inside them for years. But today, we are going to gently question something very important. What if the way you are treating your past self is the real source of your suffering? What if the mistake itself is no longer the problem, but the lifelong punishment you keep giving yourself? We often treat our past selves like moral failures who deserve the weight of our regret. But what if you stopped viewing your mistakes as a life sentence and started treating your past self as a wounded friend? Today we will dismantle that heavy architecture of shame together. Not through force, not through denial, but through 5 gentle practices that slowly rebuild the sense of inner unity regret may have broken. These practices are not about erasing your history. They are about finally giving yourself the soft internal dialogue you deserved all along. Take a slow breath. Let your shoulders relax. And let us begin. Before we talk about forgiveness, we must first understand regret. Regret is not only a thought. It is also a physical experience. You may feel it in the tightness of your chest, in the heaviness of your stomach, in the quiet exhaustion of replaying the same memory again and again. Your mind constructs an internal courtroom. You become both the accused and the judge. The past becomes evidence. The memory becomes a trial. And the verdict is often harsh. Guilty. But here is the truth many people never realize. The person you were in the past was working with limited information, limited emotional maturity, limited awareness, limited healing. You were operating with the tools you had at that time. Even if the outcome caused pain, your past self was still a human being navigating confusion, wounds, pressure, or fear. But instead of recognizing this complexity, we simplify the story. We reduce our entire identity to one mistake. We turn a single chapter into the entire book. This is the architecture of regret. A structure built from shame. But today, we begin dismantling it. Not with force, but with understanding. When people feel shame about the past, they usually try to escape it. They distract themselves. They bury the memory. They avoid silence. But the mind has a curious habit. Whatever we refuse to face quietly follows us. Which is why the first step towards self-forgiveness is not escape. It is intentional stillness. Find a quiet moment. Sit somewhere comfortable. Close your eyes if you wish. Allow the memory of the mistake to appear gently in your awareness. Not as an enemy. Not as a punishment. But as something that simply exists in your history. Notice what happens in your body. Your breath may become shallow. Your chest may tighten. Your shoulders may rise. Now take a slow breath in. And when you exhale, imagine releasing the emotional pressure surrounding that memory. This is called the exhale of release. You are signaling something important to your nervous system. The danger is no longer happening. The moment has already passed. You survived it. You are here. Stillness allows you to observe the past without reliving it. And in that quiet observation, something remarkable begins to happen. The mistake slowly loses its power to control your identity. It becomes something you experienced, not something you are. Many people would never speak to another person the way they speak to themselves. Imagine a close friend came to you and said, "I made a terrible mistake years ago, and I cannot forgive myself." Would you respond by saying, "You're hopeless. You deserve to suffer. You'll never be better than that mistake"? Of course not. You would offer compassion, understanding, perspective. You would remind them that human beings grow. That wisdom often emerges from pain. But strangely, we deny ourselves the same kindness. Our inner critic becomes cruel. It repeats the same accusations again and again. So the second practice is to audit your inner dialogue. Pay attention to the phrases your mind uses when it recalls the mistake. Perhaps it says, "I'm stupid. I ruined everything. I don't deserve peace." Now imagine your past self sitting across from you. Not as an enemy, but as a wounded friend. Someone who made a mistake while struggling with confusion, pain, fear, or inexperience. Look at that version of yourself with compassion. Then speak to them the way you would speak to someone you love. You might say, "I understand you were hurting. You didn't know what you know now. You were trying to survive with the tools you had. You are allowed to grow beyond this moment." This gentle reframing does not erase the mistake, but it restores something important: human dignity. You are not a monster defined by a single moment. You are a person evolving through time. One of the reasons mistakes feel unbearable is because we frame them as the end of a story. But what if they are actually the beginning of wisdom? Think about the version of yourself who made that mistake. What did they not yet understand? What emotional wound were they carrying? What insecurity shaped their behavior? Now consider who you are today. You have awareness now. Reflection now. Insight now. Those qualities did not appear magically. They were forged through experience. Even painful experience. In this sense, the mistake became a teacher. A harsh teacher perhaps, but still a teacher. Without that moment, you might not possess the empathy you now have, the caution you now practice, the wisdom you now offer others. This does not justify the mistake, but it reveals something deeper. Human growth often emerges from the collision between action and reflection. And when we refuse to forgive ourselves, we trap that lesson inside shame. When we forgive ourselves, we liberate the wisdom the experience created. The final step in self-forgiveness is integration. Instead of trying to erase the past, we create a new relationship with it. You acknowledge the mistake. You acknowledge the pain it caused. But you also acknowledge the growth it produced. This creates a new internal agreement. A quiet contract with yourself. It might sound like this: I accept that I am a human being capable of error. I commit to learning from my past instead of punishing myself forever. I allow my growth to matter. In this new relationship, your past does not disappear. It becomes part of the foundation that shaped your present wisdom. Even scars have a purpose. They remind us that healing happened. Over time, this perspective creates inner unity. You are no longer fighting against your own history. You are learning from it. Walking forward with it. Growing beyond it. You have spent enough time living under the heavy architecture of regret. Enough time replaying the same internal trial. Enough time punishing a version of yourself who was simply trying to navigate life with limited understanding. Today you began something different. You practiced stillness instead of avoidance. You softened the voice of your inner critic. You reframed your mistake as a teacher. You allowed your body to release stored tension. And you began rebuilding unity within yourself. Self-forgiveness is not forgetting. It is not pretending nothing happened. It is the quiet recognition that human beings are unfinished stories. You are not the worst thing you have ever done. You are the person who learned from it. And every step you take toward compassion, especially compassion toward yourself, moves you further away from shame and closer to wisdom. So breathe slowly. Walk gently. And remember this truth. Your past is a chapter. Not your entire story. Your life is still being written. And the pages ahead are waiting for the person you are becoming.